In the dead of night, a secret mission was underway. Pope Francis, known worldwide for his peace-building efforts, embarked on an incredibly dangerous mission to save a Muslim girl's life. What happened next was nothing short of extraordinary. A tale of sacrifice, courage, and the unimaginable unfolds. Within the walls of the Vatican, a new, unexpected weight hung in the air. Pope Francis, whose life had been devoted to peace and humanity, faced a decision that would alter the course of history. A young Muslim girl, Layla, was trapped in a war-torn region where her family's life and her own was at grave risk. But this wasn't just about saving one life. This was a mission that could shift the balance of power in the region and potentially change the world as we know it. When Pope Francis learned of Layla's plight, his heart broke. Yet, he knew this wasn't going to be a typical rescue. The complexity of the situation meant that he couldn't rely on traditional methods or even involve governmental bodies. His desire to protect Layla's life and the lives of others required a much deeper level of secrecy, a careful balance of diplomacy, faith, and covert operations. The stakes were far higher than anyone could have imagined. This was no longer just about saving one girl, it was about safeguarding the soul of a nation, and maybe the future of humanity itself. There were risks everywhere. If news of the operation leaked, it could provoke outrage on both sides of the political divide, stoking even further divisions. It wasn't just about the safety of one girl, it was about preventing global tensions from spiraling into something much worse. Pope Francis found himself standing at a crossroads. His decision would go down in history. The Vatican had always been a place of diplomacy, but this time the stakes were different. Pope Francis had a challenge ahead, rescuing Layla without attracting global attention. If governments got involved, it could spark international chaos. If the wrong people found out about the mission, it could escalate into a full-blown international crisis. Pope Francis needed to act, but in complete secrecy. A covert team was assembled, trusted members of the Vatican, experienced diplomats, and top intelligence operatives. Every move had to be calculated. Layla was no ordinary girl. She was caught in the crossfire of war between powerful factions, each one more dangerous than the last. But there was something even more troubling. Layla's family had been involved in a secret resistance movement, fighting against these factions. They were determined to bring peace, but their efforts had made them targets of extreme forces. Layla's whereabouts were difficult to pin down. She moved often, trying to stay one step ahead of those hunting her. Each time she thought she had escaped one threat, another would appear. For months, she lived in constant fear, always watching her back, never knowing who she could trust. The Pope's team had to work quickly. They relied on a network of informants, both trustworthy and unreliable, to piece together information. Layla's last known location was a decimated city on the outskirts of the conflict zone. But that city was under constant surveillance. Layla was trapped, but the Pope had made it his mission to get to her. As the team closed in on her location, the tension grew. Pope Francis, who had always preached peace, now found himself in a situation where diplomacy and kindness could do little. The lives of many hung in the balance. The military factions controlling the region were ruthless, and the Pope's team knew that any slip-up would mean certain death. The insurgents had already captured several operatives who had tried to help Layla escape, and their methods of torture were infamous. Pope Francis wasn't just rescuing one girl, he was stepping into the world's most dangerous game of geopolitics. The international ramifications of his actions could lead to war, but in his heart, he believed there was no other choice. Every minute that passed, Layla's chances of survival dwindled, and the Pope's faith in humanity became the only thing driving him. The moment of truth came when Pope Francis and his team entered the war-torn city under the cover of darkness. Disguised as a simple traveler, the Pope was unrecognizable. His goal was clear: find Layla and ensure her safety. The mission was precarious, as the city was a hotspot for insurgents and militants, but the Pope's faith in humanity drove him forward. Layla, meanwhile, was unaware that the Pope himself was on the ground, closing in on her. She had grown used to the fear that gripped her daily life, yet she remained resolute. What Layla didn't know was that her family's resistance efforts had put her on a target list of the most dangerous groups in the region. She was a vital key in a much larger struggle, one that could alter the region's fate forever. As Pope Francis and his team navigated the streets, gunshots echoed in the distance. Time was running out. The insurgents knew something was off. They could sense an impending attack. As the Pope and his team neared Layla's hiding spot, their cover was blown. Gunfire rang out, and the mission took a dangerous turn. In that moment, the Pope faced a decision that would define the outcome of everything. He could stay hidden, remain out of sight, and keep the operation intact, or he could step into the line of fire and risk everything. Without hesitation, Pope Francis chose the latter. His team distracted the insurgents while the Pope, under heavy fire, led Layla to safety. But there was more to the story. Layla, terrified but determined, revealed something shocking as they fled. Her family had been deeply involved in an underground movement against the extremists. Layla wasn't just a casualty of war, she was a vital link in a network that could change everything. The information she held could lead to the downfall of the most dangerous players in the region. The revelation was staggering. It meant that protecting Layla was no longer just about saving one life. It was about saving many, perhaps even altering the course of history itself. But as they ran, the insurgents were closing in fast. The Pope's team fought fiercely to hold back the attackers. The city, once full of life, was now a battleground where the world's darkest elements clashed in every corner. Pope Francis and his team successfully escaped with Layla, but the journey was far from over. They had to cross dangerous terrain, move through hidden routes, and outsmart insurgents at every turn. There was no room for error. Eventually, Layla was taken to a secure location, far from the reach of her pursuers. The Vatican, in a quiet, unseen manner, arranged for her to live in safety. Her identity was hidden, and her story was kept out of the public eye to protect her from further harm. The Pope's role in the operation remained a secret, known only to a select few. It wasn't the first time he had made a sacrifice for humanity, but it was by far the most dangerous. Layla's life had been saved, but her family's resistance movement was now even more powerful, and Layla herself would become a critical figure in the ongoing struggle for peace. Her rescue was only the beginning of a much larger and more dangerous mission. With her knowledge of the underground network, Layla became a critical piece in the puzzle. Her journey was far from over. Pope Francis, though his role had been discreet, was well aware of the forces now aligned against them. He had not just saved a life, he had changed the course of history. The story of Pope Francis's secret mission may never be fully understood by the world, but it is one of courage, faith, and unexpected heroism. His decision to intervene in Layla's life was not just about one girl, it was about standing up for what's right, even when the world is too busy to notice. The Pope's actions weren't just a reflection of his love for humanity, they were a testament to his belief in the power of quiet, selfless action. Layla's rescue was a victory not just for her, but for every person who believes in the goodness of others, regardless of their background or faith. It was a victory for peace in a region that had known nothing but violence for years. While Layla's identity will forever remain a secret, her survival and the subsequent rise of her family's resistance movement would leave a lasting impact on the region. The world may never fully understand how close it came to losing everything, but thanks to one man's unwavering faith and sacrifice, a single life and a world of hope was saved. Pope Francis's secret mission will remain one of the most unsung yet remarkable acts of compassion in modern history. His courage to stand up against an overwhelming force not only saved a life, but sent a message to the world. Sometimes, the most significant actions are the ones taken in silence, driven by an unshakable belief in the power of faith and humanity. What do you think about Pope Francis's secret mission? Was it a decision of faith or one of political necessity? Share your thoughts below. If you're moved by this story of selfless courage, hit like and subscribe for more untold stories of heroism that'll change the way you see the world.